impacted, issues of force majeure and how it's working for them, issues of deposits and vendor payments, small business problems and how they're supporting their teams, and of course the issue of the moment, thoughts on Congress's newly passed relief bill. So we're going to dive into as much of that as we can in 1 hour. And to our listeners, if there are any pressing topics you think we're missing through this, please use the chat to let us know. We're going to leave 15 minutes at the end for questions. So I want to quickly start by introducing our group today. And as you guys start talking, please reintroduce yourselves so everybody can learn your voices. But we have Jaclyn Bernstein, who is the president and partner at Access New York Metro. It's a position she's held for more than 25 years. And Jaclyn is also on the board of directors for NYC and Company, which is the city's Convention and Visitors Bureau. From a venue perspective, we have Jessica Rothstein Berman. She's the vice president of sales and marketing for Manhattan Center, which is home to Hammerstein Ballroom and Grand Ballroom. And she's held that role since 2013 and previously had roles in sales and catering for various other venues around the city. We also have Liron David, who's the founder and CEO of Eventique, which is an event production design and entertainment firm that he founded in 2006. And last but of course not least is Simon Miller, the creative director for Brand Activation Services, which creates experiences for brands around the country. And he is also the founder of Simon Elliott Events. So we're so excited to have such a diverse lineup of New Yorkers here. And
Great.
David, unless you had anything to add, I just wanted to let everybody talk for a bit. Yeah.
Let me just add a little bit of context to what we're doing. We're focusing on New York this time, but we want to focus on local communities. We have been experts on the local markets for years and years and years, and we know there's an ecosystem in each market. So we want you to get as much feedback as you can get, and especially because this thing is affecting all of us around the country, and we want to learn from what each other are doing. I thought we would first start off with Jackie Bernstein, who I recently was on a conference call with her and NYC and Company, and she's got a real big take on what is happening on a city level and has a broad perspective. So I thought we would just sort of hear what she has to say first. So Jackie, I'll butt in if I need to.
Hi, everyone. This is truly an honor to be here. Thank you to BizBash and everyone that I see that's out there. As mentioned, I am the president, partner, and owner of an event production and destination management company based in the greatest city on earth, New York. If you can't tell from the accent, I'm from Brooklyn, and as a overall statement, we all didn't work hard to come this far to not keep going on. So that is the gist of what we want to do here. And it's been very interesting because a couple of weeks ago, which seems like long ago in a lifetime and galaxy far away, that we kept hearing the word events and conferences and New York City in the media so much, which was so fabulous, except the fact that it was all about everything canceling. So here for our profession, getting recognition on national, international news, and unfortunately, it was about what's going on here. I am a proud member and board of director of NYC and Company, which is the official destination marketing organization and the Convention and Visitors Bureau of New York City. And our president and CEO, Fred Dixon, who reports up to the mayor, you should also know, is the co-chair of the Meetings Mean Business Coalition. And what's really important is we're excited as New Yorkers that, unfortunately for Fred having to be the chair at this time, but maybe it's a good thing, that not only do Meetings Mean Business is a very important coalition with the U.S. Travel Association for representing not only the corporate planners, but also, even though there's a lot of social planners out there, anything that's meetings and gatherings, this is our voice and our coalition for the industry and up to the government. And it's really exciting that my friend and colleague Fred is the co-chair this and next year. So I feel that it's important that New Yorkers have that arm in that MMB coalition for all of us. As far as what New York City is doing, you all watch the news. You see the mayor, you see the government, and you see and you hear from your own communities what is happening. David did reference that we did have last week, I organized through the destination management companies in New York, a meeting with NYC and Company to hear what is going to be happening with our profession, but none of us can know. So I don't think we need to focus on what is going to happen. NYC and Company is taking a very strong stand in working on the recovery efforts, and it's great to hear that there are clients that are still calling in reference to the third and fourth quarter, not only for meetings, postponement and cancellations, but also new business, and hopefully coming to our New York City market. And that we've been hearing that there are clients that are looking also for 2021. Not to give you a grim approach, we have heard, and I've been speaking with a lot of clients and a lot of colleagues that do what I do, that there are some companies that have decided to cancel all their travel for the year. And I think each company is going to make different decisions, just like us getting into force majeure and contracts. Each company's and the relationship that you've built is what's going to be the standing on how you're going to deal with cancellations and postponements and date changes and the bottom line, all the financial aspects. I don't think there's anything that I personally or my colleagues here could state that we all are not necessarily seeing in the news. What's also good news that you should understand, the Meetings Mean Business Coalition hosts every year the Global Meetings Industry Day. And again, for those planners out there that are not necessarily in the corporate meeting, incentive, convention, conference, exhibition field, but they're in experiential events or they're doing social galas or fundraising, please recognize that this organization really does speak to you because everything involves a meeting. The GMID, Global Meetings Industry Day, was supposed to take place on April 14th, and although it's not happening live in person based on the state of the world right now, that the event is going to have a virtual acknowledgement, and there's going to be lots of different voices being held, and I'm sure we'll see that in the next 2+ weeks, how it comes along. So I think that's pretty much an overall update. David, is there anything else that I can report?
Yes, I do. The one thing we know about Fred is that he's daily in a lot of the meetings about the briefings that are going on in New York. And we're in a huge crisis at this moment. And he is also going to be contacting Jackie if there's any things that our community needs to be activated to help, to volunteer, to create things for hospitals or whatever is needed. Trying to get money out of FEMA and things like that to support some of the things that we do and transform our skill set to more of a service moment in the next few weeks, if possible.
And yes,
right, Jackie?
Yes, and I would love to just elaborate, and that's great. I was thinking I was going to come on a little bit later, but you should also know that not only Fred and his team, but also Kellyanne Curtin, who's the Executive Vice President of Membership and Destination Services, and she's working with her team with all the hotels. I think everyone now is seeing in the news all about what's happening at Javits Center and working with the hotels to take in, FEMA and working with Office of Emergency Management and the nurses. I'm sure you've all heard what's going on with that, and the National Guard. So, yes, Fred does meet with City Hall and the mayor's office each day, and that information is coming down through us. And then if there is any way that NYC and Company, who really is our major voice, there's a lot of associations out there, but they're coordinating, they're keeping us all together, can see how anyone can get any business or volunteer work to help with this side of the effort before we get to, as we're all calling now, the other side when this all lifts and over. Trust that team is definitely going to be helping us. And it's a funny part here. I'm going to turn it back to you. We all have our own jobs, our companies to be concerned about, our livelihood, our employees, our team, everything we fought for. I also feel that this has become almost like a second responsibility of being advocates and keeping in touch. So thank you, David and BizBash, for doing this. And I personally feel that this is a stand that I need to take at this part of our lifetimes here.
First of all, I heard some of the people that have not heard the introduction. I just want to just repeat what I said earlier, that BizBash would like to be a feedback loop for you. So if you know things that are going on in your world, please send an email to tips@bizbash.com. Sign up for our newsletter so we can be a source of that kind of information. It's all about these local markets and what's going on in the local markets. Let's move to Jessica. Jessica, do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world and offer any advice to people that may be listening? Because I think everybody is trying to take this information and translate it to their own needs as well.
Absolutely, and thank you for for doing this. It's actually amazing, and we've gotten great responses from our clients and partners about the book.
Can you talk closer to the phone a little bit?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just breaking up a little bit, yeah.
So I think there's two things. I mean, there's the immediate need and then there's the future. in the immediate, I mean, we work with NYC & Co. We're working with the Department of Economic Development, with the city, with the state. We've also reached out to hospitals. We have a 50,000 square foot venue. We're attached to a hotel. How can we help? We know that Javits is being used as, a site for ancillary hospital. How long is that going to be for? How much space, and will they run out? The other thing that you have is you have trainings that have to happen, with social distancing. How do you do that? How do you, food pantries, all of the different things that need space. I think that, getting online, going and reaching out to all of those places, has really helped in terms of letting people know we're here to help. So in terms of that's, in the immediate. In the future, it's about working with our clients and really showing our partners that we're here to make for the long run. We're here to make it last. We're here to work with you. How do we figure it out? What do you need from us? Because everyone wants comfort. We're in a totally unprecedented situation. And people are concerned. They're scared, and rightly so. However, I think that our confidence in the future and the fact that we're going to get through this and that we're stronger together is what's going to hold us over.
So, Jessica, let me ask you a question then on the whole cancellation policy, which is kind of at the heart of a lot of things that people are talking about. What has been your experience with that and also the deposit world? Because I think that this is putting a lot of companies and vendors and people in jeopardy because everyone is kind of in a cash flow bind no matter what. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And, working for a small business, a privately owned business, it's definitely a concern and a challenge. We're very lucky in the fact that we've had, I think, only 2 events actually canceled. Everything else has rescheduled. And what our goal is that, because we don't know what's going to happen, we're reaching out to our clients and saying, how can we work with you? Our cancellation policy is that payment in full is still due. We understand, though, cash flow. We understand that not everyone can do that. So it's a matter of we're going to apply their deposits to their next event. We are going to work within the force majeure. It's a matter of, again, looking at the long term and being flexible. So I think that,
Can you explain
about
force? Can you explain a little bit about force majeure in terms of what your take is on it and then what advice you have to others?
Sure. I mean, our force majeure policy is the force majeure is in case of an epidemic, an emergency, strikes, and it basically gives both parties an out in the contract. Our force majeure is our only obligation to our client in the event of force majeure is to apply all monies paid to another event. Other force majeure policies that I've seen in other places are people get their money back. So it's a matter of interpretation. This is, and what we're looking at is we're looking at events that, canceled prior to the state of emergency being issued, prior to the ban on events of over 500, and then the events that have canceled and rescheduled after that's gone into effect, and then the events that are for the fall that are asking about it. So you have 3 different areas. In terms of the events that canceled prior to, what we're saying is, we need to reschedule, and we're rescheduling. The ones that are rescheduling now, we're doing the same thing. We're actually still applying their money because we want them to rebook.
Right.
David, the question sorry.
Why don't we move to David has a venue as well. Do you want to talk about your issues with cancellations and things like that? David?
That's Liron David.
Oh, Liron. I'm sorry. Liron. Is he on? I guess not.
Yeah, sorry. I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I was muted.
Oh, sorry. Good. Your venue and your force majeure and what your issues are with it. It's a little bit of a smaller venue that you have.
Sure. So yeah, we've had. Also, we've been very fortunate with most of the events on the corporate and nonprofit side who have just postponed to new dates. There's been a couple social events that have obviously said, look, we've had people plan to travel in who can't make it anymore, and we're going to downsize the scope of our social gathering, and we're going to move it somewhere else or to a new date. You can't guarantee us necessarily a date as much as we can, work our best to accommodate it. In certain scenarios like that, we've returned the deposit if we really can't stick by it. We understand that certain events can't be postponed as much as we'd like them to. We also do have cancellation policies with regard to force majeure, whether they're going to cancel it versus whether it's going to be canceled because we cannot host the meeting or event. So I think everybody's been in a place where the venues or planners don't necessarily want to just refund everything, right? But at the same time, we understand certain things can't be postponed. There is one place that I've found lately very interesting, in a way to sort of pay it forward or pass it forward. If you have a nonprofit who can't, they can't guarantee that their honoree is going to be for next year, if they're going to push off their gala this year into 2021. There's no guarantee that their honoree is going to be interested in that style of a venue that the honoree from this year was. And you also have, a question of, is the date even going to be available for that honoree for the following year? So you've got, let's say, a $40,000 deposit on a venue where more money is due. You don't want to cancel it before the force majeure goes into effect. And is a venue going to be open-minded enough? Are they going to postpone the cancellation date or date of cancellation prior to the event? And in order to get closer, even though that the event's not going to be able to take place, and the venue knows that, the client knows that, and will the venue, go into, execute that force majeure into effect, and will that money be returned, or can that money not be returned? And then in 2021, can someone else, can you pass that savings or that cash that was already, non-refundable, can it be moved to another client's potential event? So can you pay it forward? Is there another nonprofit that can bump in and, get that savings and take advantage of the money that was already paid? Not that you want to be black marketing event sales and deposits, but is there a way to share and pass, pay it forward?
I think that's a very innovative idea.
I'm sorry. I think that's a great idea. I think the big thing for venues is just really working with our clients and what do they need. That's a great idea.
Think about all the deposits that are non-refundable that venues don't want to give back or can't afford to give back, and but are willing to give you the venue and the service provided. And that discount I know can go a long way for many organizations for 2021. And how do we share that knowledge and those aspects?
So you're kind of talking about creating sort of a secondary market for the deposit world and things like that, and all the things that are happening that maybe we should think about. Why don't we just go to Simon? Simon, do you want to give us sort of the view of the world from your perspective and talk about how it's impacted you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our company, we focused on, doing a lot of live event production, a lot of producing immersive experiences, which obviously is on hold right now. And, what I've tried to do is, try to focus on how we can use our team's experience and, looking at everyone who's involved on my team and what they bring to the table and seeing how we can sort of pivot in the short term and hopefully come out of this as the best version of ourselves that we could possibly be, given the circumstances. So just a small example of what I did over the past couple of weeks. We looked at the situation. We saw that there's a ton of people that are stuck at home, working at home, studying at home. And we have a fabrication shop, that we weren't using. And I have an engineer on my team, and I have a great 3D render designer on my team. So we kind of got our heads together and we said, hey, maybe there's something that we can contribute based on this. And we actually quickly pivoted into kind of product development and becoming our own little digital marketing agency. And we came up with a product called the Study Cubby, basically a little customizable, folds flat unit that you can set up at your home and kind of create your own little customizable workspace. And that's something that we can produce in-house. And it's been a great, just something to kind of keep my team busy and kind of keep the creative juices flowing and just kind of keeping morale high. And at the same time, really focusing on some of our internal marketing efforts, Because right now it seems a little taboo to outreach to clients, more so than just kind of checking in to see how they're doing. So at the same time, we're really focusing on what is everything that we can do behind the scenes, updating our websites, really making a list of everything that we never, ever have time to do and might ultimately never have time to do again, and really trying to make sure that we're using that time constructively, as well as also reaching out to all of my friends in the industry, even competitors that we might not have worked together or, talked much in the past, but just reaching out to see how they're doing, how we can potentially work together, set up a little Zoom conference just to talk about, how we can help each other. So, that's kind of on my micro scale, what I've been doing to try to, just kind of keep things progressing.
Well, I think that one of the things that I have seen in this is that the innovation is pretty incredible from every possible part of our industry. And this is the time when you have the time to sit down and brainstorm on what the future, what the present could be and what the future could be. Jackie, we started this convention exhibit meeting and event coalition after 9/11, and the bonding that happened between the people meant the business that people were doing 20 years later was still part of that experience. Correct?
Yes, I would. Thank you for mentioning that. So after September 11th, myself with David and working with people at NYC and Company, Jerry Cito, who's the Executive Vice President of Convention Development, and many others, we got involved with the CME, Conventions, Expositions, Meetings, and Events, CME in New York City, to bring that back. And I feel that NYC and Company is doing the next version of that for New York City with the recovery. And Sami, it was interesting when you were saying, we shouldn't be calling our clients right now. And yes, we're not asking them, hey, about specific pieces of business. But what I think is very important, and I've been discussing this with my colleagues, friendly competitors, clients who I know some of them are on the call here, we want to get the pulse of what is happening out there in the community. So now more than ever, which was another saying that we said after September 11th, to take care of our city and our businesses and our employees, which is the most important to us here at our team, is to find out what the clients are doing. So I know of one client, as I mentioned earlier, canceled all of travel for the entire year. I have other clients, just spoke today, and one of my closest clients is on this call, that they're still continuing. When I say business as usual, I think you all know what we mean. They are continuing on doing the work, obviously not an event for next week and maybe not next month, but they're still looking to plan and work with what might happen, let's say, in the fall into 2021. I've heard that there's been space challenges at some of the hotels. Isn't that incredible that the hotels are saying that they might be challenged with space, obviously because of postponements and redirecting dates. So we all have to feel that this is going to lift at some point, and we still have to move it forward. And we believe that if you're getting information from your clients, that's good intel for you to use. And David, I'm not trying to task you with another work, and I know that the team with Jerry and Matt Schechter and all at NYC and Company are speaking to clients to see, when do you think you're going to start planning again? And God willing, will you look at New York City? This is something that I've been stating when I say this all started in March, when everything started to roll through and the cancellations and postponements and looking at new dates. The big comment we got was, we're going to do this about a month or two. We're going to see what happens as we get closer to June. This was in March. The calendar becomes April 1st next week. Oh God, April Fools, right? I think once we hit April 1st, corporations and all organizations are going to start to make their plan on what they're going to do moving forward. For those of you that have children that are out of school, we've all been hearing the news. They're supposed to go back in the end of April. They might just call the whole year. That might happen on the meetings and events and wedding side of the business, whatever you may do. But hopefully, maybe this will be an interesting concept where July and August has been traditionally slow for the corporate meeting business. But again, when this lifts, people might say, we're going to start doing events in July and August. We've had enough time out of our office. We need to get together. We need to get business flowing. Yeah. And that might actually be able to kickstart more work for us, maybe, hopefully, in the July, August, as opposed to people saying, we're going to wait till after the summer into September.
Do you really think, we're hearing that things are not even going to pick up until September, October. You don't know anything about it, all of this, and God knows we're not experts in infectious diseases, but do you really think people are planning for? I want to challenge you on that point.
It's not so much a challenge to me. We cannot determine when this is going to change. Okay, we have no idea when it's going to lift, and we're allowed to congregate together. Leave it to the scientists, and some might say to the politicians. What we're saying is, if for some reason that this happens in a short term, and if we're able to get back to work, I want to believe, I don't know if it's true, that when that happens, people might decide to do it sooner than later. So even if it was a June 15th type of concept, that people might state, we're not just going to wait to September because that's what we're talking about. Let's get back to business sooner. We would hope that turn would happen much quicker. But no one knows. I just have to understand that.
From that perspective, that's what we're seeing, is we're seeing people who are looking to rebook for July and August, which is great.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, David. Liron,
I'm just gonna just put in there that we definitely are. I mean, one of the bigger things that we've been doing, obviously, with everybody postponing events, is figuring out that intel of, are they going to go to July? Do they want to push to September? Are they just not doing it this year? Is also getting feedback from hotels, which we have. We've gotten confirmations from hotels saying, hey, the week you have on hold in July, I have another person who's ready to sign today. So that means, okay, somebody else is planning an event in July, which means, whether that's going to get postponed again or not, we don't know. But the one interesting thing that I think everyone in this industry needs to reanalyze is their cancellation and force majeure clauses. Whether you're a producer, a provider, a rental provider, a hotel, everybody, because there is no consistent, contractual, communication around the force majeure. It is so open-ended, and all our clients on the event production and planning side are coming to us saying, hey, we're ready to go, for the September event, but we need to see your updated terms with regards to what we could do with cancellation or postponement, or, when does force majeure, how does it work? Do we get our money back? And we also don't want to put ourselves into a position where we say, yeah, we'll give you your money back, and then, they're paying a deposit, and by that point, things change in the market, everything gets postponed, canceled. There's a limit to how much we can continue, taking in cash flow and spending it to try to, be innovative as we continue to grow into this new, era, without just assuming that all the monies are going to be returned, indefinitely.
Is there a language that we can share with our entire industry on what works? Because I've heard everybody's all around the map on this thing. Who has that, and who would share it with our community?
I would say, we're working on it for the planning. For Eventique on the planning side with our clients, and then I have another version of it on the venue side, because both of them still have to make clients feel comfortable, but also give us the opportunity to feel comfortable taking a deposit without knowing that it's always going to be returned, right? So there might be something included in there of, will you postpone, or is this a one-off event, right? And we have to look at it separately and start to categorize it. So
let me commit to everybody that we're going to try and publish some language that people can either check with their attorneys or their lawyers or whoever they want. But we're going to give some starting points. I hope people would be interested in that. I would assume so. I guess we'll find out maybe in this chat.
And that's a very valid point. This is Jaclyn Bernstein again. As if you couldn't tell by the deep nasal sexy voice. Come on, I had to add some levity to it, okay, for everyone out there. But it's an interesting point, because I've been on a lot of webinars throughout the week with different lawyers. There's a lot of different versions of the language, and it has been coming down to, obviously, relationships. I'm a small business, and I feel I want to be a voice. We have lost so much. It is frightening out there. And with business that's just been canceled, or we just don't know when it's going to happen again. And each time we've had a conversation about this and what we're going to do with the client, a lot of times we're dealing with major corporations, and they have their own language as well. So it's been beyond what force majeure is. It's been about what could we do to, I hate to use the word negotiate because it sounds negative. What could we do to collaborate together to decide if your event, if it lifts, can we do it in July, or do we have to wait till next year, whatever that may be. It's interesting. concept, what might come out of this is a lot of us here work at smaller organizations, venues, businesses, et cetera, but we have some of the most major corporate clients that are out there or third-party intermediaries that are meeting planning companies that work with the end user corporate client, and they're still doing their, again, as I said, business as usual. They're still, well, I still got to plan the January event. We just had a successful one 2 months ago. We're going full steam ahead, think it's going to happen. But they also internally in their companies have to keep doing their work because they don't want to be furloughed, laid off, with no work, just like maybe in the smaller companies as well. It's going to be interesting in how long this lasts. What's going to happen to all those planners that work for corporations, and what are those companies going to start making unfortunate financial decisions to do?
Why don't we give a little bit of insight into what happened after 9/11 and the recession? There was a lot of people that were laid off, right?
That is correct. It was interesting how a lot of the clients of ours were laid off. And again, we don't want to benefit on other people's misfortune, but there was a turn for a lot of the small businesses that they got business as we moved a couple of months away. Again, we were in the New York area, so our industry just had a different hit here than anywhere else, that we were getting more business simply because of the fact that those departments internally became much more downsized. And then a lot of those companies realized that they were not able necessarily to sustain that. There was no reason then to bring a lot of them back and not sustain it. This is just different, though. We don't know how we're going to come out of this on the other side. And that's when we keep saying when this is keep happening, I keep sounding like I repeat myself. And trust me, I repeat myself a lot naturally. We just have to see how we keep moving forward. And we just got to hope that those clients still keep planning, that keep us in the short term involved and engaged for potential business that will one day actualize.
So let me move it over to Claire a little bit. Claire has been a reporter on this. She's looking at it strictly as a reporter, and she's been talking to lots of people. Claire, do you want to chime in here and give us some insights on what you're seeing from analyzing your reporting?
Yeah. Well, a big thing I'm seeing right now is, I think Simon touched on this, kind of adapting your company to try to keep your staff employed as much as you can, and to help people as they work from home and and a lot of rental companies and things like that kind of thinking, how can they help on the front lines? How can they help hospitals like we see the Javits Center doing, transforming into a temporary hospital? I think it's kind of a lighter note. How are you guys seeing kind of these smart ways you've seen some companies adapt to keep their staff employed? Anybody have any good examples of that?
This is Jessica. I think that's a huge, huge thing. I mean, having, because again, like everyone else, we're a small business. It's making sure that everyone stays, working. It's coming up with, I think what Simon is saying and, what he's been coming up with is fantastic. It's keeping people engaged. I mean, we talk so much more than we did before, Zoom calls, on the phone, and literally coming up with ideas. How do we help our community? How do we help our clients? How do we help each other? And how do we do better? How do we move forward as an organization and support the community?
I think we're. Sorry, Jessica.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we're all creators, right? So I don't think there's anyone in this industry that knows how to do anything but continuously create. And the innovation is definitely coming out in a big way. But I think more than anything, the conversations that have turned into from just a casual check-in with a client or a customer or a partner has turned into hey, I need a solution for this, right? And that turns into potential business, whether it's, again, virtual streaming or online broadcasting or how that works to, when do you think we should start getting back into the creative for this design for the September event? Should we put it on hold now? I think becoming a solution-oriented person for how to overcome a challenge that a client has or a partner has, I think that's how we grow closer together, especially during this time. So just really being solution-oriented versus just, sales-oriented.
David, this is Jaclyn. Again, I own an event production Destination Magic company in New York City, but I've also now bought into and become part of the Access brand nationally, and we have 20 different DMCs elsewhere. And when this all started, let's say this, and when it started, our thought was with our teams locally here and around the country, we wanted options. what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to go to different venues when the restaurants were open. When the restaurants were open and when the cultural institutions were open and venues were open, but no one was really traveling, and it was very it was concerning. We wanted to go and take video and be able to show our clients, here's what we can do when this all comes back again. This is a great venue for you. Now that we all cannot do that and we're sheltering in place and staying at home, I have noticed that companies, DMCs, not only the Access brand, others are thinking of clever ways to be able to show people when we come onto the other side with video internally, to be able to keep them top of mind for making sure that meetings mean business and we still do need to meet face-to-face. In addition, I'm sure you've all seen this, and again, is this an answer? There are magicians that are doing magic shows and teaching you how to do tricks online. There are people teaching you how to do things that you've just never done online, and probably what we've seen more than ever is that the Zoom call or any type of video conferencing has truly become part of our everyday life, and we got to hope that it's not going to replace, and it shouldn't, live business, but we're just thinking of ways to still stay connected. That's just the general aspect out there, to stay connected for when we can get to the other side of this.
That's all. Those are all good points. I want to bring up one sort of how are we dealing with employees that we need to make hard decisions with? This is a time when people are furloughed, people are let go. It is really hard for the people in this business that are the workers, that are hourly wages. I mean, people are cutting left and right. Entertainers. What are we doing? What can we do? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
David, this is Simon. Just addressing the elephant in the room, dealing with some of these things over the past few weeks, I would say has been some of the hardest challenges that I've faced as a business owner, really since I started the company. I think one of the reasons for that is because, usually if things aren't going well, you know that there's things that you can potentially tweak and change, that you can do better. And I think in a situation like this, it really doesn't discriminate for the fact of, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do and how good of a person you are and what you bring to the table. This kind of across the board has affected us universally. And in terms of interacting with our staff, it's been some of the hardest decisions we've had to make. But, the main goal, obviously, going forward is to make sure that there's something that everyone has the opportunity to come back to. And I reached out to some of my mentors, people that own much bigger companies than I, that have been around, longer than I have, that have kind of been through some of these dips in the past. And a lot of them were saying was, you really have to get past some of the emotion now, because if you wait too long and you become super cash strapped to the point where you can't reopen your business, then there's really no opportunity for anyone to come back to. So, we obviously had to make some very challenging decisions and try to keep a core team that could keep our business operating. But at the same time, what I've been trying to do is be creative in that, let's say I have a videographer that works on our team generally full time, but I had to furlough them, but I saw that there was an opportunity that maybe there was a gym that was looking to create some new content for their website. I actually put this person from my team directly in contact with the gym, and I'm trying to feed them as much work as I can just to keep them leveled out. Even if I don't have work to bring to the table in the short term. So I think it really comes down to that creativity and just trying to keep our antennas up. If there are staff that we need to furlough for the time being, figuring out ways we can best offset what their situation is. Maybe there's other types of work and ways that we can refer them business to work on their own. And ultimately just letting my staff know that I intend to make good on this, that this wasn't something that they deserved. A lot of these people have worked very hard for my company for the past 5-10 years. And I want to make sure that they know that in the midst of this, I'm working to make sure that on the back end, I can make good on, those sacrifices that we've had to make right now.
Do you think that one of the lessons you're suggesting is act fast, and another one is when you lay people off, are you laying people off individually, or you're furloughing an entire team so that you bring everyone to 3 days a week or 2 days a week? I know Marriott brought their sales team to 1 day a week.
Sure. And I think what we're seeing, across a lot of businesses is more that these things are happening in phases. We had to make an initial cut for our team down to more of a core group. You see some of the people on your team that are capable of executing a lot of different roles that may have worked in the different roles in the past. And those are people that kind of, naturally have made it past a first round of that. And I think we're just seeing as things progress, as the government is helping with some of these stimulus packages, like just yesterday, I was seeing that potentially the federal government is going to contribute an additional $600 in unemployment on a weekly basis, in addition to what people would be receiving on the state level. So for me as a business owner, a week ago, I was thinking, how could I lay some of these people off? They can't potentially pay their bills on, $300 to $500 a week. But now if there's going to be an additional $600 a week that the government is getting involved with, if this progresses another, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I might then have to make that decision, to lay them off temporarily for the fact that I know that they're going to help, being taken care of by the government. So it's really, me personally, for our business, we've been taking it on a biweekly, as our payrolls go from in 2 week cycles, and just really, because everything is happening so quickly on a 24-hour turnaround right now. We've just been trying to let our staff know that we're working as hard as we can to keep them working. And if we can't, really trying to rip that Band-Aid as quickly as possible and not wait till, the last possible minute to let them know what's going on.
Another issue that I've heard about that people are talking about is the effect of communications on this stuff. What's been your experience, anybody, in terms of are you totally transparent, or do you let it drop at one point? It's hard. This is gut-wrenching stuff.
Hey, it's Liron. One of the things that has helped with communications internally, especially when everyone's working remotely, was my initial thought was, okay, everyone will put their notes down on a daily basis, and at the end of the week, I'll review sort of like, have the task been accomplished? What are they working on? We moved into doing like a daily huddle for our team, like on Zoom every morning at the same time, early to sort of kick off the day and make sure that we're staying together. But it also gives me the ability on a day-to-day basis to be able to communicate updates on what's going on and be, super transparent with everybody on, yes, we are working on a financial analysis right now on making sure we have a real plan for the future and not just going day by day, but it gives us the ability on a daily basis to keep those communications transparent so everybody feels like they're a part of it and they're not out of the loop.
So that brings another question for me, is that, so everyone's remote. How structured is your management now? Because you can't just walk around and see what people are doing. So, how do you monitor? How do you keep people accountable? Like, are there any new rules that happen just because of this new way of working automatically? Anybody?
I think the morning like agenda where everybody gives a daily, like an update of what they're going to be working on that day, brings something to the table for everyone to feel unified that, they have to be prepared for something that day. Everyone on the team is going to be listening to what they're working on. It accounts for that accountability and responsibility. And the next day, sort of report back on what some of those updates were. I also ask as a business owner for every day a daily report sent to me at the end of the day, so that it's not waiting till the end of the week to address something that I can support them in a better way or set them up for success. But on a daily basis, I'm in the loop, and my executive team, my leadership team can be really hands-on, where sometimes someone's working throughout the day or throughout the week in the office on something, but actually these daily huddles have given me a lot more insight into the management of making sure these tasks are accomplished.
Anybody else have any insights and tips on that world? And then want to move on to questions.
Just in short, this is Jaclyn. I've had virtual employees in the past, and Simon, you're 100% right. Our employees are who make our companies what they are. And so whatever hard decisions were made is for getting onto the other side. And we've always had a very flexible schedule and work environment and trusting in the team. I have employees that have been here some 20 years, 15 years, 13 years, 6 months, et cetera, to trust in the work that they need to get done. For those people that have that watch your employees at all times in the actual physical office space all the time is probably going to learn very quickly how you can make this work if you have some virtual employees, especially now because if they all are, and being flexible with them to do, let's not forget that while these employees are working from home, we are also, they're stuck inside because they physically can't go out, and they're also a lot of them homeschooling. So that is something that we've also been telling clients, that in this staying at home, shelter in place, homeschooling, not keeping distance from people, that we have to handle that while we're also handling your business. But I feel that this is going to, if it hasn't for you, you had some virtual employees in the past, but now it's going to change how you have the trust in them. If they're getting their job done, doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be sitting at their desk at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sure there's been lots of jokes that you've seen online. People are not taking a shower first thing in the morning. They're not doing their hair. They're wearing a suit and jacket and tie, but they have no pants on. So, I mean, there's just funny things that come out of it. But if you make sure that you adjust as a manager and owner of your company and working with the employees, what's best for them to get their job done, whatever that responsibility of work right now is, that's the best way to deal with what we're dealing now, the virtuality, and getting to the other side.
And Jaclyn, just to that point, I think that it's, as a manager, it's a matter of, are you getting your job done? The results speak for themselves. As long as you're checking in and you're available to your team, your team's available to you, results that's what it is.
We have been like that all the time, never real, specific days out and vacation. It should continue from this point.
Before I turn it over to Claire, I want to ask one really, really hard question. In New York City, we're going to be facing this. What happens when a member of your team gets sick? It's hard to imagine. And what do you do? And how do you, do you drop everything? I mean, this whole industry wears their heart on their sleeve. How do you separate? How do you it's hard to decompartmentalize this stuff. What do you do?
I don't think, this is Jessica, I don't think that you can. I think that, you can't compartmentalize. I think that part of who we are is our emotion. It's our ability to connect with people and connect with our teams. And I think that, God forbid, if and when someone on our immediate team gets sick, all we can do is rally around them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Tough. Anybody
absolutely.
else? I mean, it's a tough thing, and especially right now in New York, when you look at the news in D.C. right now, it sounds awful from media side.
I think This is Simon again. One of the things I was saying previously about just in reaching out, I could see in the chat, asking if it's the right time to be, pitching future business right now. And that was really one of the things I was saying is I think it feels, it doesn't feel right, obviously, right now to be pitching to our clients, although I do feel that it makes a lot of sense to keep that line of communication open and checking in on them and seeing, creatively how we can be collaborating. For our team, it's anticipating, some of our clients' future needs, knowing that, for us as an experiential production company, as an activation company, it's doing some of that research now so that when the lights do come back on, when the time is right, we've got some fresh ideas for them, and that we just really want to make sure that we're using the time constructively. If it doesn't feel right to reach out, or if it doesn't feel right to have that conversation now, let's do that research now. Let's really try to get our ducks in a row so that we can use the time constructively. And, that's what I've been trying to focus on with our team as well.
Right. Claire, do you have questions?
Yeah, I want to get to some of the chat questions because I know we're almost out of time. There have been a lot of questions about transitioning to virtual platforms. Have you guys had any experience with that? Do you have any favorite platforms? When do you think it works? When do you think it doesn't? Anybody wants to speak to that?
I'll say just one thing is that, the flip side of people losing business is that any live stream, online broadcasting, or virtual vendors up to their eyeballs in explaining how their services work. We've been doing some virtual events. We have some conferences that have obviously been canceled, but kept on going with, needing to still share PowerPoints, communications, make it entertaining, make it lively. So we have been, analyzing all the platforms that are out there. Everyone has a different need, so it's really a matter of what is the solution that needs to be provided for everybody's virtual event? Is it supposed to be social? Is it supposed to be a fundraiser? Is someone being filmed from their home? How are we passing presenter support? Making sure quality of video is good. Is there interaction that needs to take place between different people involved in it? Is it a virtual panel, or is it just one straight keynote? Is it is it pre-recorded and with post-production being posted as a semi-live stream, or is it really a live stream? Is there any delays? So there's so many factors that go into it, and there's lots of companies out there that, I mean, we've worked with in the past, but I think that there is no one solution. It's really based on what the need is for everybody who's asking about virtual meetings. What is it you need to accomplish, and then coming up with solutions
One of the things that we're trying to do at BizBash is to be a resource on that too, because people are pivoting into that area. So we want to start really covering that in a big way, at least for now, and create what we started out as, to be a place where people get ideas and resources. And so it's one of our objectives to do that.
I think that it's not something that's, also solely to our industry. I was talking to a friend yesterday who's a video commissioner with one of the large labels, and she was saying, we still have to make videos. So does the artist, musician, do a selfie video, and then it gets sent to post-production? How do you still make it happen? Because things just still have to keep on going.
Well, as an event producer and a destination manager, which wants people to come to the destination and have us innovate and handle their event production, do not feel that live events, again, once we get to the other side, are ever going to go away. We looked at this at the downturn, and that's when people kept saying meetings, in face, touching. Oh, well, that's a whole other thing. But getting together and meeting is still going to be there. It's funny now when we are getting all these Zoom calls and everyone says it's a meeting. It's really a conference call, that we have to believe that a client asking for some sort of video conference calling, even after when we're able to meet again, because it's always been there. It's just a service that we've provided an event, whether, let's say, we're at Jessica's venue, the Manhattan Center, and there's 100 people at the meeting, but there's a big screen and we're having video conferencing with 100 other people. That's just a service that we would provide. But I don't believe, and I would hope that none of us on this call believe, although we have to be smart and think of other ways we're going to service some aspects, that the concept of us all being in live experiences together for meetings and events, and yes, in New York City, in this destination, is going to go away. We're just going to have to figure out a way to hopefully be able to come back to it sooner when this all lifts.
Claire, any more other questions?
Yeah, there was another question that I thought was interesting. As we come out of this, there's a lot of talk of it going in waves. We're going to open up a bit this summer, maybe have to lock down again. How will you deal with people's fear about that? Do you think there's going to be a cap on how large an event can be for a while, and any solutions for that?
I think there's going to be obviously the CDC. There's going to be the rules, and there's going to be what people feel comfortable with. And I think it's going to take time. Even if they say you can have a gathering of 500 people, are 500 people all going to feel comfortable to come out? And how long is that going to take? And I don't think anybody knows. But my hope is that in a place like, at least like New York or some of the larger destinations, that people need to get out. They're not going to stay home. They're not going to stay just in their office. They will be looking, even if it's just to socialize. I mean, just at the beginning of this whole this whole virus, we had a gala dinner that was expecting 700, have 850 people turn up, and I don't know if that's just because they just wanted to talk about what's going on and be social and socialize about it and share intel and information. But I think people are going to want to come out. It's just a matter of the size groups and what the reason is. Is it essential to be out, or is it is it a requirement?
Yeah, definitely. We are almost out of time, but I wanted to ask, how are you guys finding the good and the bad? This is a really hard time. Is there anything out there that's really encouraging you about the state of the industry, or kind of getting you through this quarantine?
I think the community. I mean, I've been talking to clients a lot, and as previously I didn't necessarily talk to clients every single day. And connecting again with everyone, connecting with, my peers, my partners, people I've worked with, and friendly competitors it's inspiring. I mean, and it gives you hope, and it gives you reassurance that we're going to be able to move forward.
That is a really good point. And one of the things that I think that we're doing in this series is exactly that, letting people listen in to feel a little bit more comfort that people are talking to each other, competitors are talking to each other, people in the industry are talking to each other, people are innovating like crazy, and one idea leads to another idea, which leads to another idea, and this is the time that we need each other in huge ways. And so I'm so grateful for our community, and I've seen it resurge several times in my career, and this one will certainly be the same. Any final comments from anyone else?
I don't want to get all philosophical here, but there's been some saying that this was not done to us, it was for us. And granted, as Jessica said, and David as well, all of us here, I agree, and I'm reading a lot of the comments, that we're all in this together and we're all going through this together, and potentially that maybe things were just spinning out of control for some in a really positive way, some negatively. Maybe it's just a reset for all of us. But regardless what our thoughts are about it, we're in this together in this profession, working as clients, providing services and vendors, and going to events where we would be with people that do what you do, and clinking a glass, which again, hopefully we can do, because one of the things I might do on the other side is become a bartender. But clinking glasses to talk about what we're dealing with in the industry. And this industry, we're getting so much press, as I started out in the beginning, but we're all about hospitality. And in a city like New York, we just know as much as we're number one in the news right now in a horrific way, we would have to think that the collaboration, how close we physically are together, which is part of the challenge here, is what's going to make us come out number one. I keep saying on the other side, but it might be different, it might be new, but I think everyone that's on this call is somewhat tied into this profession, and we're going to figure out what we're going to see and how we're going to do it together after this.
Any quick comments from anyone else? Simon?
Yeah, I got one more thing. This is Simon. One thing I was just going to say is, with everything that's going on, I think, there is an opportunity to try to kind of turn adversity to our advantage, in a sense that, if any of us were kind of headed down a path where you did kind of feel like things were just a little out of control, or there were elements of your business where it felt like not necessarily where you ultimately want to end up, but you're kind of stuck in that path. This was such a shock to everyone, where you kind of realize that, things are not quite as locked in as they seem, and that you do have the opportunity to make changes that you'd like in your life or in your business. Me personally, just trying to use some of the time to, spend time with family and loved ones, and just kind of be a little bit introspective and really think about, do I ultimately want to continue with everything that I was working on, or potentially change, some of those goals? And, obviously, and the other thing I was going to say is, for some of the other businesses and even competitors, I've been looking out for opportunities for them as well. If there's an idea that pops up that has nothing to do with me, I've called up friendly companies and competitors and say, hey, like, I saw this might be a cool thing for you to get into. So I think just seeing how we can help each other as a community, and keeping an eye out, not just for ourselves, but for everyone that we work with, and, being quick to pick up the phone and let them know to check this out, or check out, this policy that was just passed. I think we got to just keep that line of communication open.
I'll also add just improving skill sets of your team. I mean, this is the time to educate, and we have the time to do it. So take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Well,
Claire, do you have any
David,
comment?
No, I was just going to say thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody in the chat for being so engaged with some great questions and sending resources to each other. It's a beautiful community here.
Right. Let me just say, we want to continue doing this type of thing. If you have suggestions on how we can do it better, topics that we should cover more in detail, we're here to serve you, and we're here to sort of make this community feel like they're one. And we love what we do, and we are passionate about the idea of people connecting. And I always say that everyone is really a collaboration artist rather than an event organizer, and we're trying to be collaboration artists today in general for the entire world. So thank you for coming, and let us know what you think. Have a good day.
Yep.
Thank you, David.
Thank you guys for hosting.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.